First off, Bryce, thanks a lot for sitting down with me. We flew out to Seattle to one of your clients, and then we flew up to Toronto for another client.
I'm Bryce Nord, Vice President of Strategic Solutions at Cyncly. So we're a vertical SaaS software company supporting the kitchen and bath, office furniture, home furnishing industries, really anything inside a home. That's what we focus on as a company, from point of sale retail all the way into manufacturing software that actually drives the shop floor to enable manufacturers to produce those kind of products. So we're technically based out of London. We have hundreds of manufacturers globally. The retail side of the world, so the Lowe's, Home Depots, IKEAs, all the way to the biggest manufacturers in the world. So Master Brand, Kimball, Nobilia over in Europe.
What kind of influenced you guys to reach out to a professional videography company? What led you to choosing BB Focus?
With what we're selling out into the market, it's a really complex solution. We've grown to become the largest software provider in these specific industries globally. There's serious buy-in during the sales cycle. You not only have an individual that's interested in the software, but you also have the executive team, oftentimes a board of directors outside of the organization, where everyone really has to be bought in. We needed a way in which we could tell that story and explain what it is that we're going to do to help support the manufacturers. If we wanted to actually go through a manufacturer's process flow from design all the way into the truck, video was the best way, we thought, to bring that to life. We started looking for videographers and ultimately reached out to you.
Are there any challenges that you guys were facing before this big video project that we did?
The major pain point that I was really trying to solve at the time while I was head of sales was at the end of the sales cycle, right before a company says, I'm ready to go, let's get started. They would always want to go to an existing manufacturer and see what we had done.
Right. Yeah.
Again, because you're involved at the executive level of these organizations, that process would take months to coordinate, an executive team wherever we were looking to go, the prospect client who is wanting to actually see it executed or implemented. And so that's really where we thought video could capture the essence of bringing to life kind of the shop floor and the software side of what we're able to support a manufacturer with.
I know you mentioned that you guys have seen a little bit of success with showing these videos to clients.
So just being able to broadcast to many people what we've been able to do to support various manufacturers, but also taking small segments from within that video. So if we created a 7-minute video at Belmont as an example, we have dozens of small clips of that video that we're leveraging on specific topics.
Micro content.
Yes, exactly.
Are there any specific success stories that you have heard or you've seen firsthand?
Historically, we would have done probably 10 of these reference visits annually, where we're taking companies to other companies where we've successfully implemented, and last year we only did 2 of those. Okay. So I would say almost all of that reduction was directly related to the video, because again, we were able to bring that story to life so much at Belmont that it allowed all these other manufacturers that were interested to see it firsthand without having to physically be there. Another example, we did an industry webinar in December and kind of built a story around an industry consultant, but then also machine vendors. So it was really a kind of a triangle of consultants, machine vendors, and software provider, all working together to support manufacturers. And so we actually leveraged that video to kind of tell that story and build our webinar around that.
Is it time saving? Is it money saving? Is it a higher sales to close ratio?
Yeah, absolutely. It's adding more value out into the industry. Manufacturers, they're not super secretive on what they're doing on the shop floor. and it's a really tight-knit industry. And so oftentimes manufacturers share best practices and they're willing to open up their doors to others. So we've now been able to expose what Belmont does well, with their permission, to other people that, they're happy to share it with.
Right. Yeah, that's neat, man, because you can probably have them watch that video and then follow up with any questions they have, and then that can kind of fuel the conversation with just the next step in your guys' sales process.
For sure. In ERP sales, which again is one of the most complex sales you can be in. ERP is enterprise resource planning. I oftentimes explain it's the brains of an organization, right? Where everything's flowing in and out of one central
all the behind the scenes stuff that makes the company run.
Yep, exactly. And it takes years to implement. It's going to cost, from front to back, millions of dollars for an organization. And so it's not a light decision that anyone takes. Average sales cycle, 9 to 12 months, involves typically half dozen to a dozen key stakeholders within a company. Oftentimes, those early conversations are with the champions of the organization, the engineers, director of operations. Maybe the CIO brings us up as a strategic initiative of the company. The video has helped us create micro demos or micro environments that can kind of spark new pieces of conversation throughout that process. But then also at the end of the sales cycle, right before they're ready to make the final decision, that Cyncly is definitely who they want to go with. That end-to-end case study that we've been able to shoot with both Belmont and Technion provides them just a piece of validation. They're seeing the end of the journey come to life before they ever start.
So Bryce, I was wondering if you could kind of explain from start to finish how the process with BB Focus worked, from booking us as your video production company all the way to the day that we delivered that final product.
Honestly, I would say it was a breath of fresh air, just at the speed at which we were able to execute these.
Yeah.
I think probably 6 weeks later, we had the first draft of the video. I was a bit apprehensive at first, going with somebody that was third party into a really complex manufacturing process. And having to educate, here's what we want to shoot, here's what we want to capture, here's how we want to capture it, the value add and the pain points we were trying to focus on. I think overall that went extremely well, and it was pretty impressive to see just the speed at which you could adopt the focus and the goal and what we were trying to tackle there. And I think we did 2 rounds of edits back and forth and had a finished product. So even for the very first video that we did, to only have 2-3 rounds of edits in a really complex process, it was fantastic.
Awesome, I appreciate that. What was the overall feedback from the team? Did we hit that mark that you guys were shooting for on the quality side of things? What was the overall feedback on the visual presentation of it and the overall feeling of the video?
I would say overwhelming. This has now become a core strategy for the company moving into FY25 for types of projects we want to execute, because it's driven so many good results. But also I would say this topic, it's not the sexy sale, shiny products, right? Even just the creative aspect, the vision you were able to bring into it and the different techniques that made it not such a stale conversation. We're flying drones down inventory racks and above manufacturing lines, bringing that to life in a unique way that I don't think somebody that's as close to it with so much manufacturing background would have captured, because they would have been so in the weeds, where you were just able to bring a different approach.
This video project, the positive results that you guys have seen, have you noticed any changes in your specific role or your life in general? Has it made any of that easier? In
general, it's freed up time to focus in other areas of the business. I mean, even if it's saving a demo here or there, or these reference visits, that saves a half a dozen trips you got to do every year. It's been able to allow us to bring this content to life that we can serve it to many people. as opposed to the old model, which was let's bring all these people to individual locations as a one-off.
Okay, Bryce, I had one last question for you, and that is future clients for me. Like, what would you say to a company that's in the process of looking for a videographer or a video production company, but they haven't quite made the decision to do that? What would you tell them?
No matter what product or solution or service you provide, if you're trying to bring that story to life to potential customers or even your existing customers, I would say do it. What we've seen is people want to engage with video content in everything that they do, whether it's social media or whether it's something they're looking to purchase. And so it's a really great way to drive a message to a target audience. And we've proven that here with what we've done so far. That's why it's become really a key part of our strategy moving into this year and I'm sure beyond because of the success we've seen with it so far.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time today, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.